thanks everyone for joining. Welcome to the session Precision Nutrition, One Woman's Superfood, Another Woman's Poison. So briefly about myself, I'm Yasmin Sharitia. I'm the head of impact platforms at the Swiss Food and Nutrition Valley. I joined the Valley not so long ago, and I'm very excited and happy to guide you through today's session. A quick look at the agenda. It's quite straightforward. So we will have a short introduction to what the Swiss Food and Nutrition Valley is, what the impact platforms are, and then I will hand over to our great speakers who are here with us today. So we will hear 3 keynotes and then finish with a Q&A. So if you have questions throughout the session, feel free to already put them in the chat, and Mel and Christina, we're also here from the team, will then support later in going through them and getting them answered. So some of you might know the Valley already, or some maybe don't. So that's why I would like to give a brief introduction what we are. So the Swiss Food and Nutrition Valley is a non-profit organization, and we really have collaboration at our core. So as the Swiss Food and Nutrition Valley, we are a unified consortium, and we aim to accelerate and amplify food and nutrition innovation to then, as a result, improve planetary and human health. So the Swiss Food and Nutrition Valley was actually initiated last year by Canton de Vaud, EPFL, EHL, and Nestlé. So you see there was a French-speaking Swiss focus. However, it has grown very quickly beyond that part and is now a nationwide initiative. And the goals that we have and the mission that we have also goes beyond our borders and is an international one. So we're a nationwide initiative with international engagement. Also, as Switzerland, as a country, we are in a great position to actually become a food nation and to drive food innovations as a country and to be an important player in the world. And that is due to the diverse and vibrant ecosystem that we already have existing in the country. So we have an ecosystem of great food and food tech corporates. We have many startups. We have cantons who are open and willing to change and make the world more sustainable. We have academia and great universities, and also startup support programs. But also very important, we also have funding and money and investors already in the country. And since early this year, Christina Sen-Jacobsen, she is the managing director of the Valley. I think she's also here in the call. We might hear her voice later or not, but also hi, Christina. Going a bit further and looking at the impact platform. So you might wonder, what are they and what do we want to achieve with them? So with the impact platforms and the impact projects that then result through these platforms, we aim to unleash purpose-driven innovation in the food industry. So you might wonder, okay, what is a platform, how? But it's really, if you imagine the impact platforms as a platform, it's a place where we want to bring different and very diverse stakeholders together to exchange, to collaborate, and then as a result, drive concrete action in different defined fields. So you can really see it as a place, as a platform where we bring people together, where they inspire each other, where they engage with each other, where they learn from each other, and co-create and collaborate. And that's one side, but on the other side, it's also about unifying and bringing together our voices to then communicate about important topics, but also to drive innovations and knowledge outside of Switzerland and kind of share as a united voice what we are doing here, and at the same time, or on the other side, attracting then talents and innovations back to Switzerland. We have 5 defined impact platforms. The first one, actually this event, is the kickoff of the Precision Nutrition Impact Platform. So you see this is just a start, but we have 4 more defined areas like sustainable proteins or food systems 4.0, precision farming, or sustainable packaging, also very relevant topics in today's world and topics where we can actually create impact. We are also kindly supported by McKinsey, and I think also Marco Ziegler and Mauro Ometto are here in the call today, and they're our partners and supporters in this innovation process. We have, here is a map of our members. We already have many members, and you see they're quite diverse from different institutions, corporate, startups, SMEs, or governmental organizations and clusters and associations are members. And also here, the idea is really bringing these diverse different stakeholders together to then really be able to drive change and action. So if you now see this and you think, oh, this is very interesting, I want to know and learn more, please reach out to us. Here you see Mael, she's also here in the call. Reach out to her and learn more, and we'll be happy to hear from you. So this just as a short introduction about what it is that we do. Now I would like to hear a little bit about who you are. And for that, it would be great if you could go to menti.com and use this code. Or Mael, I think, shared the link. Yes, she's nodding in the chat. So you could also directly click on that one. And I have 3 questions so that we learn a little bit who's in the room here today. So let me go to Menti. Yes. So the first question that we have is, where are you joining from? If you could mention your company and location, that would be great to know. Okay, we have Spain, Germany, Paris, France, USA. Oh, it's quite international, Switzerland. And the bigger a word is, the more people put in that word. So it seems like, okay, Switzerland is dominating. Yeah, we are the Swiss Food and Nutrition Valley, but it's great to see that we also have a quite diverse mix of countries and cities. I like Niederdorf, Zurich. That's actually close to where I'm at the moment. Cool, so I wait, we have 36 that answered. I wait until 40 and then move to the next question. Oh, we have also quite some people from the Netherlands and Portugal. Welcome. Good. Then the next question I have for you is, here. I work for a corporate, SME, startup, university or an institution, association or a cluster, governmental organization or a canton, student or other. Okay, so we have quite some others. That means we missed a category, an important one. So if anyone is open enough, it would be nice if you could share in the chat if you are one of these others, what you are doing. Okay, so we have many people from corporates, few startups, university, associations, 1 SME now, okay, and 43 people voted so far. Okay, that's interesting to see. And now let me move to the last question. So what is your relation to precision nutrition? Is it, I have no idea? Or is it, I know a little bit about it? Do you work in the field currently? Are you an expert or an enthusiast or other? And here you can select multiple, I think 2 or 3 at the same time. So we have quite some enthusiasm here in the call. That's great to see. Some work in the field also. Good. Some know a little bit about it, or many. All right. Cool. So I think it's a great starting point to start with this enthusiasm in the call. It's great to see that more than half are enthusiastic about this topic, and I am too. So I'd like to go back to my slides. And before I hand over to Olivier, our first speaker, I would like to give a short introduction to precision nutrition, at least from my perspective. Also, precision nutrition was a rather new area or topic for me. So when I started looking at it, I thought, okay, I could probably just Google it and then I will find this definition that I can then just take and use. But it turns out it wasn't that easy, and there's not this one definition that is very established at the moment, at least. And I talked to different people and experts, Olivier being one of them here in the call, and I think the way he described it was very good. He said it's you can see it like a continuum. It's not like there is this precision nutrition, there's a hard cut between, for example, personalized nutrition, but it's a continuum. And I would like to start this continuum at the very beginning with something that everyone knows, and that is the food pyramid that you can see here. So the food pyramid, everyone knows it, it's taught in schools, and it provides a very generic recommendation about how a healthy and balanced diet could look like. And it follows a one-size-fits-all approach. We go one step further, there is targeted nutrition. And targeted nutrition, as the word already says, is targeted, and it targets a specific group's targeted needs or dietary needs. And then from here, I would like to jump to personalized nutrition, and I'll show you the first definition that I found. Personalized nutrition uses individual-specific information, for example, diet history, genetics, or individual testing, for example, blood biomarkers, that are founded in evidence-based science to promote dietary behavior change that may result in measurable health benefits. So this is a definition from Adams et al. Maybe I'll give you a moment to absorb and understand. And I would like to put that in contrast to another definition, the one from Harvard on precision nutrition. And they say, precision nutrition aims to provide the most effective, unique eating plan for an individual based on her or his DNA, microbiome, and metabolic response to specific foods or dietary patterns. And this approach is very often linked to disease intervention. And by Harvard, it is also seen as a subset of precision medicine. Also, Harvard, for example, does not differentiate between precision nutrition and personalized nutrition, while others do differentiate. So this, just to give you an overview, but not to confuse you, but this really shows that there is not this very established definition, and there's still a lot of room to shape the future of precision nutrition or personalized nutrition, or however you would like to call it. I think it's a very interesting area, and it's also one that has a lot of potential. And I would like to finish before I hand over to our first speaker with an article from The Economist. It was published in July, and it's called "What if everyone's nutrition was personalized?" So this person who writes this imagines a scenario in 2035, and he says, in year 2035, there is a broad consensus that the rise of personalized nutrition has done a lot to promote healthy and environmentally friendly eating over the past decade. In 2031, the proportion of obese Americans fell for the first time in more than 20 years, and the rate of diabetes has fallen for 3 years in a row from its all-time high of 22%. Europeans are getting slimmer and healthier too. So I find the scenario from 2035 sounds quite nice, sounds very promising, and sounds very exciting. And I'm very excited to already to introduce our first speaker, who is truly an expert in the field. And this is Olivier Balevre. So Olivier.
Yes, hello, good morning, good afternoon all.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Olivier, yes. Maybe a few words about you. Olivier is truly an expert, as already mentioned. He has more than 30 years of experience in animal and human nutrition in academia and industry. He has a long track record of scientific publications, patents, and innovations in the field. He has led different Nestle R&D organizations in China, for example, but also in Europe. And currently, he's in charge of Nestle's global R&D program on personalized nutrition for all Nestle product categories. So welcome, Olivier, and I'll stop sharing and hand over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Yasmin, and thank you, the Swiss Food and Nutrition Valley, to invite us, Nestle, and myself to share our experience and in this journey, which is really very fascinating and passionate. If I share my screen, hopefully it will work with these digital tools. Can you see it?
Yes, we can.
Okay, I put in full screen. Here it should work as well. Yes? Okay. You see it as well?
Yes.
Okay, good. Therefore, yes, the title I put is "The Future of Food and Nutrition is a Science-Based Personalization." Therefore, I hope that within the next 10 minutes, we'll introduce you this perspective and how we see from a Nestlé perspective these elements. I think to start with, and you certainly, most of you know the commitment of Nestlé called Good Food, Good Life, which is not only a commitment, is really something which is the strategic view from a company perspective. And this has been more recently sort of more details. And as you can see, especially on the middle slide, it is to enhance the quality of life of everyone, meaning this notion of personalization is really embedded in the strategic thinking of the company. And this is by unlocking the power of the food. Therefore, food in order to enhance quality of life of everyone. And this is really a notion which is critical from a Nestlé perspective. We see the future of food and nutrition as personalization. This is clearly, and therefore what are we talking about exactly? Therefore, first of all, you have the science and technology perspective. And some of you may know this is a scientific and technology platform that we from a Nestlé R&D perspective are working on, and that has been put already a couple of years ago together, and you already see them personalized nutrition being part of this platform. And it's meaning this is a focus because why? First of all, it's a consumer trends. There is a clear desire from consumer to look for this personalization of their nutrition. And secondly, you have a lot of scientific evidence which are mounting as well. And these are mounting around, and some of the examples are there, microbiome, more and more science-based, cellular nutrition, multi-omics profiling, are these science emerging area where clearly can support personalized nutrition offer from a science and technology as well from a business perspective. After that, I think trying to understand what are we talking about. I think there's a couple of scientific elements that you can see in this slide. I think the first fundamental one is clearly the notion of health can be impacted by food and nutrition. I think that's the first element which now I know is more and more proven for many means, and this is a fact. The second fact is clearly, this is happening first on every stage of life, and you can see the small pictures and humans and pets as well. It happens as well in the different functions of health, the gut, the physical, the metabolic, the brain, all the elements can be impacted on nutrition. On the other side, nutrition, and you have these two curves. Usually in the past, we were showing curve which is a line. For optimal nutrition, suboptimal nutrition. In fact, the recent science have demonstrated that population-based is not personalized optimal nutrition. It's very different. It's a wide needs depending on who you are, and this is why personalized nutrition is been happening. First of all, what is your needs, the optimal nutrition, but also where you are versus this need, and what are the gaps you have to close. And depending on each individual, this gap is different, and as a consequence, require specific recommendations. Therefore, it is why we put this sort of framework on how we define within Nestlé this personalized nutrition as a whole. And I think it's all starting, we take it from a consumer perspective, and we take it how the consumer will share first their health, nutrition, and food preference. And this is a proactive sharing. This is a step number one. The step number two is how we interpret this information for the individuals, but also with the rest of the data and the science existing out there and recommendation. And by comparing those two, we can define gaps and way to close these gaps from a nutrition perspective, and that come to this recommendation. This is really this data interpretation and recommendation. And the last steps of this circle is really how we intervene to close this gap and what do we propose to the consumer to close this gap. It can be lifestyle changes, it can be recommendation on menu, but it can be also in association with these two first, specific products or specific supplements. One of the key aspects is also this closing of the loop, because this is not enough to propose something. First, the consumer have to embrace these changes and also see the benefit that he can get from an health and nutrition perspective. And therefore, this circle is going on. This is how we frame this consumer journey around this personalized nutrition perspective. One of the key aspects of this is the science behind, and what type of science do we have? Personalized nutrition is more a consumer, a business framework, where inside this, we define it, there is a couple of key science. The first science is clearly the precision nutrition science. It is really to put together this relationship about an individual status, whether it's genome, it's microbiome, or this type of elements, which are sort of critical, with this what we call phenotype, which is health status, the output, and the needs of this person and the consequence of the health status. This is what precision nutrition tries to unlock. This is a lot of work which have happened already in the past, but is exploding in the current recent past and in the future. Many programs, including NIH in the US, is putting millions in order to support the science development in the space. The second element, which are very important as well to make it happen, is this notion of biosensors, which are putting together tools in order to measure the health status and help the consumer to understand their health and nutrition status in a non-invasive way. So data science, in order to put all this data together in a digital form most of the time and interpret and give the right recommendation into it. But also something which sometimes often forget is a behavior science, because it's very good to propose to a consumer, to a person, something to do. However, he will only do it if that fit his mindset, his way he wants to change his behavior versus the recommendation. And that's not necessarily obvious. You all know some of our personal decision on sometime January 1st or whatever, I'm going to stop eating chocolate every night. Okay, although it's good for your brain, it may be not really good for your waist. And therefore you decide, okay, I will limit this to 1 out of 2 days. You may be able to do it a month, 2 months, and maybe more difficult to keep it forever. And this is where the behavior science is critical. If we go on, I think that, okay, Nestle, and you certainly some of the example, but I want to go a bit more details on some of these examples to explain how the different ways we can implement some personalized nutrition offer. And these are examples which are existing today in the world. And let's start from the left side with the Nestle Health Science, which is our company more tuned to the sick and people in between or looking after their health into this. And you get an recent acquisition in the US called Persona, where they're proposing against a questionnaire some recommendation of specific vitamins that really adapted to your mix, and they ship that to you. It's your plan that you receive on a monthly basis, according to your needs and according to what your expectation as well in terms of health objectives. More advanced are what we call the pure genomics, which is here leveraging your DNA data, and this is a US company as well, where you can get it from different companies which are making it for your ancestry review, but they can be also interpreted versus the risk of becoming nutrient deficient in certain type of vitamins and minerals. And therefore, this is together with a healthcare professional, a doctor, will interpret this data coming from this DNA data and will provide you a couple of key vitamin and mineral you may need to supplement to decrease the risk of deficiencies. More advanced is what is called this ModuLife, is an example where this is for Crohn's disease, therefore sick people which have the Crohn's disease, and would be dietary recommendation according to your taste, but according to the best scientific knowledge, or what can be the best diet to limit the inflammatory status of some of the food in order that you can live better with your Crohn's disease and avoiding sort of having peaks of inflammations happening to you too often. On the pet care side, and Purina is one of the leading company in this area, there's elements like tails.com, which is really according to a questionnaire that depending on your age of your dogs and breed and lifestyle, you recommend a couple of specific food made for your dogs. This is a UK service, and this now has been enhanced through a recommendation of a nutrition plan, where together with your vets, you are reviewing based on blood samples as well as history of your dogs, the specific needs of diet and nutrients that your dogs need, and putting together a plan which will be evolved with the evolution of the health status of your dogs and will be delivered in your home, where you have hands-free things. You receive the exact dose that you need to feed to your dogs every day in order to match the best nutrition science to the needs of your dogs. Towards more consumer goods and consumer products like Maggi, you all know Maggi, this sort of seasonings and food company. We have a sort of a website already launched in many countries, but the most advanced one is certainly in Poland, where you get a menu planning, but also with the menu they propose, you have what we call My Menu IQ, which is a nutrition score of this menu, and you can, by removing and adding certain type of items of your menu, to make the best score on your nutrition profile in order to match on your side your taste and preference as well as your nutrition needs. Two other initiatives, this is more from a dairy perspective, I pick up from Asia. One in Philippines, where it's the mothers will share what their kids are eating in terms of food groups out of the pyramid that Yasmin just show things. And based on our knowledge on current measure food groups consumed in the Philippines by the kids and the deficiency that lead to, we can recommend changes in the food that these kids need to add or to remove. And because most of this food will, in these kids, induce a couple of deficiency, also recommend a dairy product which is fortified in particular in iron, because most of the kids are deficient in iron in Philippines, and clearly receiving iron as a milk is very important as a good source of iron. So the other element is Neskino, which is a China example, where here we propose smoothie based on nutrition expectation from the individuals, but also taste preference, and it's a mix of superfood and superfruits mixed in a nice smoothie that can be adapted to your needs by your personal choice. These are interesting examples. However, this is just the challenge is really to make it them scalable, and this is one challenge. And to make it happen, I think we can. This is well summarized on this graph that I don't want you to memorize in details, but to show you the complexity. Scalability is depending on many factors, and this European project done in 2015, 6 years ago already, I've highlighted really the groups of challenges to be solved, both at the socio-economic level, at the scientific level, at the food production level, in order to really make this personalized nutrition a reality at a scalable and touching the maximum of the consumer, not only from a business perspective, but also to ensure that we get a nutrition impact. And I think the 2035 view of an impact on the population base of personalized nutrition can be a reality if we address all of these elements in the aspects. Come back to the Nestlé part, I think that we believe this is a scientific area where we need to do further progress in science and technology in order to be successful in the space, outside from the business reality, but also from the science reality. You have the classical element of nutrition and consumers and bio and data science and biosensors technology, which are required, but obviously prototyping, clinical validation of a business offer is very important as well. And how you scale and implement is about, is it a system to deliver your solution? Is it which factory and process and technology you can put in place, whether it's a 3Ds or whether it's a bigger factory, is all these elements which need to be put together in order to make a successful solution in personalized nutrition. This, in particular, Nestlé are doing part of it. We are doing also in partnership with many of companies, and this is really developing ecosystem in this space is certainly a critical elements to be successful in the business. And to conclude, I think that yes, we believe that the future of food of nutrition is personalization. One, because it's a consumer need, and this need will not disappear. Everybody wants to be treated for himself first and to suit their needs, and this is human behavior needs. And the second element is because there is many scientific knowledge which have been created in recent past and will be even more created in the future, but we should be able to leverage in these consumer needs to offer this personalized nutrition. And I leave it to you, and I'm happy to take any questions afterwards.
Thank you very much, Olivier, for your insights. As Olivier just said, we will ask your questions in the chat. You can also raise them later on, but we will take all questions after the 3 keynotes. And that brings me already to the second keynote. It's Philip Merck from Löwy. And Philip and I, we met quite some time ago at Mass Challenge in the framework of the EIT Food Accelerator Network. And since that time, a few years ago, his startup has grown and developed a lot. And I'm very excited to hear how Löwy is moving and what they're doing. And Philip is one of the 3 founders of Löwy, and with their work and their focus on science and technology on the other side, he and his team, and I'm quoting him, they're working on taking the guesswork out of supplementation. So Philip, are you here with us? Hello.
Yes, I'm here, and I'm trying to share my screen, which should be easy after 1.5 years of online conferences. So here we go.
Perfect.
I hope everyone can see my screen. Yes. And yeah, the same procedure. If there are any questions, just ask them in the chat. And yeah, I'm super happy to be here. So yeah, maybe you already introduced myself, but if you take one thing away of who I am and why I'm talking here, is I'm basically a guy who loves building awesome products. I usually love to build stuff that I really want to use myself. I've been involved in building a satellite which monitors climate change. I've been part of the team building the world's first electric aircraft. But my true passion always was lying in the healthcare space and subsequently in the food space. And this is how I ended up building Löwy. And yeah, just to give you a little bit of background, I studied robotics and data science. And also Olivier mentioned that analyzing data, it's kind of the holy grail or the key for personalized nutrition. And that's where basically my expertise fits in. And I've partnered, for example, with Professor Dr. Scher, who's one of the most renowned prevention doctors, to get the scientific component into Löwy. So yeah, that's very short and very boring about myself. I really want to start out with a fairly simple question, which probably could be discussed just for 1 hour by itself, which is, are supplements healthy? If we would be in a room, I would ask you to raise your hands how many people of you are taking supplements, but just as a guess, it's probably roughly 30 to 50% of people in the audience taking supplements. So the question is, are supplements actually helpful or not? And the answer is, it depends. I think all of you know this curve. This is a Gaussian curve, which shows there are a lot of people in the center and some people on the edges. What does that mean? So if you're just taking any kind of standardized supplements, which you get, I don't know, online on Amazon or in a pharmacy, or I don't know, wherever you might search, chances are you will end up here. And this is where I started my health journey. I was taking a lot of different supplements, which I was reading up on blogs or showed up in my social feed because some company spend a lot of marketing dollars to get my attention. And this major part here basically are the people that are not affected negatively by a supplement, but also not positively. In the end, you're spending your money on expensive urine. That's what I did for quite a long time. But I wanted to move from spending my money on expensive urine to actually having health benefits on the supplements I'm using. And as you can see, the graph has 2 sides. There's also a negative side to it. So there are also a couple of people, and I believe it's as many people as that benefit from supplements that are actually worse off with supplements. For example, if they have a certain disease and the nutrient they take interacts with that disease, or if they take a certain medication and the nutrient interacts without them even knowing that it has a negative effect on their health. So for this reason, we've basically built Löwy. And I like to make this comparison. If you use standardized supplements off the shelf, this is like rolling a dice. If you get a 6, you're healthier. If you get a 1, you're worse off. And with personalized supplements, you're just rolling the dice, and each time you get the 6 and you hit the jackpot. And this is really the power of personalization and what fascinates me so much about this area, that there's so much room for improvement if you really look at the science, use technology that's out there to deliver the people what they actually need. So yeah, what is Löwy doing, and what makes it special? So in order to understand what a person actually needs, you first need to analyze their needs and not guess, but really have a very deep look in what's missing. And the only way for us to do this is to look at the blood work, because that's the only place and where you can see black on white what is your status for a certain vitamin, for a certain mineral, for the omega-3 fatty acids. And this is really the basis. In order to get the blood values, we have an at-home blood test kit, which we just send to the people. They prick their finger and put a few drops of blood in a tube and send it in. They can also go to a doctor and just take a picture. Honestly, it doesn't really matter as long as there is a high quality analysis in the very beginning. In the next step, we do an online questionnaire where we ask people like in-depth question about their lifestyle, about medications, diseases, allergies, everything that could have like potential negative effects, but also potentially positive effects, and where we could support. And with all this data, we put together and make basically kind of a summary and show the people, hey, what's actually going on inside of my body. And just for you to see, so we have this app, the Löwy app, where you get all your results, and we really help you to understand what's going on inside of you. And that's something that's really important for myself, to understand what's happening, because only then I'm convinced that I'm doing something good for my body. Basically before Löwy, I was only like crossing my fingers, closing my eyes, and hoping that it works, or that I picked the right stuff. But with Löwy, I see, oh, I'm red with omega-3 fatty acids. My iron levels are too low. And then I look at my supplement and I see, oh, it has iron in there, it has omega-3 in there. So there's really a link between the product and what I see in the app. So the next step is, on the one hand, nutrition recommendations. So recipes and foods, because we believe there needs to be a holistic approach. But honestly speaking, we think it's pretty hard to change people's behaviors. I know it myself. I tried it so many times to follow a meal plan and stuff like this, and for me it doesn't work. And I think for a lot of people as well, it doesn't work. So we see it mainly as an inspiration. So that maybe next time you go to the supermarket, you pick the broccoli instead of the French fries or something like this. But our core product then is really this tailor-made supplement. So this supplement, it has my name on it, and it's really uniquely manufactured to my needs. So this product will only exist once in the whole wide world. I will show you how it looks like from the inside. So it's like this granules, and out of 120 different substances, we mix together this really unique mixture. And the cool thing is, and I think that's also a very crucial part for people to actually take it and have the benefits. You just need to take 1 spoon a day. This is how it looks like. And you don't have to eat like 5 or 10 different pills, which I was also doing previously. I had like this shelf full of like vitamin D, omega-3, magnesium, and the one you take before breakfast, the one with lunch, and so on. And you feel more like a cancer patient than a actually healthy person. So we try to make this as simple and convenient as possible. And I believe this is one of the key factors to make personalization successful with consumers in the end. And last but not least, with our system, at any point in time, you're able to track your progress. So we're not only telling you that it works, but we actually prove to you that it works. So you can look in your Löwy app and you can see if your blood values actually are rising or not. And that's super cool because yeah, it's finally gives you the full transparency in this whole process of supplements in this whole industry. And of course, what would be such a role without the infamous feedback loop? With each blood test, your individual mixture improves based on machine learning, as well as the overall system. So each new customer and each new blood test improves the overall system and makes basically Löwy better each day. And that's something I'm also very excited about. So why do we need personalization? And I want to think about this in two ways. On the one hand, there's the customer side, the consumer side. So what does the consumer get out of personalization that he doesn't get out of standardized supplements? And on the other hand, we have the level of also commercial viability. So of course, as a business, you kind of need to sustain yourself. So why does personalization make sense from an economic standpoint? So I think the first benefit is very obvious. Of course, you improve your nutrient supply. And we make sure that you don't get too much and you don't get too little, but you get exactly in the optimum area. So that's pretty straightforward. The next thing for the consumers, we make it fairly easy because you don't have the paradox of choice. You don't have, I don't know, hundreds of thousands of different products that you can choose and pick from. It's kind of more like the iPhone approach. It's like either you take the iPhone or you don't take it. So we relieve the consumer of the paradox of choice. The third part is that we eliminate health risks. And we have, for this whole algorithms that we've built, analyzed over 15,000 medical studies. And we have a database of over 9,000 interactions with diseases, medications, allergies. So we can really make sure that there's no single nutrient in the mix that could potentially be harmful to you. And just to give you like a perspective on how easily this happens, that you actually take something that's harmful, I picked the example of Macuma or warfarin. It's a fairly common medication for blood pressure, and warfarin or Macuma is actually like the polar opposite of vitamin K. So if it basically eliminates the function of vitamin K. So if you're now taking high dose vitamin K, which you will find in almost any vitamin D supplement that you buy, you will reduce the effects of your medication and in turn actually increase the potential risks for heart attacks and strokes. So there are actually pretty severe consequences to that. And basically, because we do that every night, I sleep really, really well because I know that none of our customers will ever have any problem with our personalized supplements. So yeah, of course, we maximize the health benefits because we constantly optimize, and the consumer can actually see that it works. And the cool thing is also the data matches up. So over 95% of our customers improve their blood values within 3 months. So it's not just that we make this up, but really the data is showing that the whole system really, really works. So the second part is the commercial side, which might also be interesting because it's kind of a different angle to this whole personalized nutrition thing. So what we've seen, thanks to the fact that people finally see that their supplement routine is working, we have a retention rate which is over 90%. So Löwy is a subscription model, with a monthly subscription, and really, once the people start with Löwy, they stick with it because they really get this proof and have the sense that they get the right product for them. And they don't really have any reason to change, because a lot of times you adjust your supplementations or the products to what your current goals are. Let's say it's winter and you want to take something to improve your immune system. Great, you go buy the immune mix, and then maybe you're preparing for your marathon and you buy something that supports you there. But Löwy really can do all of it and adjust to it with each new cycle. And so there's really no reason why you should pick any other product. And the cool thing is that it also gets better with each blood test. So the more we know about you, about how your metabolism works, the better the product is. And of course, the less you want to change to another product. And just as an example, I take my co-founder and me, and there's also, I think, a really interesting article on our website. We started out at the same vitamin D level when we did our first blood test, and then we supplemented the same amount. And I ended up here in the optimum area, and his value basically pretty much stayed the same. And we repeated this over a couple of blood tests. And now my co-founder, Adrian, he's taking 5 times as much vitamin D as I do to achieve exactly the same blood level. So that just shows how different we all are. And yeah, my problem child, so to say, is iron. My body takes up iron pretty badly compared to the average person. So in my individual mix, you will find a lot of iron. All right, so just to show you a very nice graphic from Boston Consulting Group, they've analyzed basically the willingness to pay for personalized products, as well as the production costs. And there's basically a gap that can be filled. Frankly speaking, with Löwy, we are pretty much on the upper end here, because we do 100% personalization. So we have quite high production costs. But of course, people are also willing to pay more than for standardized products. But this will, go down over time once we have more customers. So last but not least, we have the key challenges for personalized nutrition, and especially personalized supplementation, which I just mentioned: high production costs. Of course, you can optimize like the bottling and packaging of the products, but there's kind of a high threshold for automatization. So you really need a big customer base in order to automate everything. We have the plans in the drawer, but we still need to grow to get there. And also, personalized products need more explanation. If you have the standardized vitamin D product, you can just advertise it on social media and say, hey, it's winter, you should take vitamin D. And that resonates with you. You can understand that fairly quickly, but our approach is really much more nuanced, where we say, hey, take the test, and then we see what you actually need. You cannot explain this within, I don't know, the 5 seconds you look at the social media ad. So there are more challenges when it comes to sales and marketing of such products, especially because most people actually don't know that something like Löwy exists, which I hope we're going to change within the next years, and then also within this talk, that more people know about what's already possible today. And last but not least, I want to showcase a little bit of the vision that we have behind Löwy, because I think this is really as good as it gets when it comes to personalized supplements at the moment. But we know that there will always be different brands. There will always be different forms of products. There will be pill packs. There will be bundles of standardized products, granules, 3D prints, and everything in between. So there will always be personal preferences. And what we build with Löwy and what we also get work together with the University of Zurich and the European Union is to build an operating system for personalized nutrition, where we can plug in any kind of data stream. It might be blood analysis, questionnaires, fitness trackers, but also DNA or microbiome, which we are doing with the University of Zurich. And based on our scientific database and all the learnings we've generated over the last years to personalize any kind of product. And the cool thing is that we have also 2 patents pending on this approach. Yeah, so we really see the future more as a provider for this data analytics, and Löwy as this halo brand that shows what's possible with personalization. And yeah, that's what I want to leave you with. And if you see any touch points there, anything that's interesting, feel free to reach out, check out our website, connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm super happy to talk. And yeah, thank you so much for the opportunity to speak here.
Thank you, Philip. Great presentation, great vision that you left us with. I also saw that many questions came in the chat. We will address them, but first we have our last speaker, last but not least, Sona. She's here with us.
Hey guys, hey.
Yeah, maybe while you start putting up your screen, I'll briefly introduce you. So Sona, she will kind of give us the zooming out perspective to this. She's the founder and CEO of Terra Lumina, where she is harnessing the power of data. And Philip, you touched data also a lot, data and AI to unlock the therapeutic potential of nature. So Sona has a background in biomedical engineering and has years of experience in healthcare technology. She founded Oshi Health previously, a digital health and virtual care platform for patients with digestive health conditions. And last year, she was awarded recognition as one of Forbes 30 under 30. Congratulations for her achievements and contributions in the world of healthcare and life sciences. So this is very exciting, and I am very excited, Sona, to welcome you here in this round, and the stage is yours.
Thanks, Yasmin, for that really great introduction. Can you guys see my screen okay? Just want to double check that.
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
But it's not in presentation mode, I think.
Let me see. How's this now?
Yes.
Okay, perfect, guys. So thanks so much for your time today. You know, great presentations, hard acts to follow, but I'm looking forward to kind of sharing with you some key insights that I've gained over the last several months working on this concept around really the history of food as medicine. Oops. For some reason, it's not letting me actually switch slides in that presenter mode. So I hope this is okay. I'll try to minimize this side as much as I can.
Yeah, that works too.
So, I wanted to kind of share some key insights from my side that I've really gained over the last several months on really the importance of food as medicine historically. And really, when I say food, I'm referring to kind of edible plants and really the plant kingdom in general, how core of a role it's played in the way that we've practiced medicine historically, really what's driving that therapeutic benefit when it comes to kind of the chemical composition of edible medicinal plants, and the current state in terms of how little or how much we've actually been able to explore and understand the chemical composition of these plants. And lastly, kind of touch on what we are doing at Terra Lumina to really leverage AI and data to unlock the therapeutic potential of these plants. So maybe kind of taking a step back and taking a look at the history of food as medicine. Almost every culture, every ancient tradition, both kind of locally as well as globally, has some kind of herbal and food-based medicinal tradition. We're all familiar with Hippocrates, one of the founding fathers of medicine. He's written extensively and used to sort of, be such a food enthusiast when it comes to the power of food as medicine that, this quote by him, "Let food be thy medicine and medicine be thy food," is often quoted even today as a central kind of component of the power of food as medicine. And food and diet were always so central to the way that we practice medicine that the three pillars of most ancient Western medicines, Greek and Roman, are, pharmacology, surgery, and diet. So it's not anything really new how we've managed to sort of integrate food as such a core component of medicine. And really it was believed for many hundreds of years that the right food chosen for the right person at the right time could really be used to influence someone's health and help them to prevent and manage their health conditions. Edible plants and the way that they've been prepared and served have been such a core part of these ancient traditions. Most ancient medicines were focused on trying to achieve some kind of balance in the body. So many of us are familiar with kind of the ancient Greeks and ancient Romans who really believed that health was achieved by maintaining a balance of the four humors, which are blood, phlegm, yellow bile, and black bile. And they believed that all these factors were interconnected, and everything that we ingested and put into our body would have some impact on the balance of those factors. Similarly, in more Eastern cultures, Indian Ayurvedic practices, traditional Chinese medicine, etc., have all been focused on attaining this balance and really looking at people as a whole person and taking a very personalized approach to how we deliver medicine. I've always found it really fascinating to learn that actually personalized medicine was the main way that we as humanity have been practicing medicine up until the last 50 or 100 years, when we sort of moved away from that in favor of more kind of targeted solutions. And then, in a similar time frame, food and plants were central to the way that we practice medicine up until that same time frame when we moved away from that in favor of more clinically validated pharmaceutical approaches. And a lot of the reason for that is that the traditional techniques for really understanding the value of these edible and medicinal plants have been extremely challenging. And I'll touch on that a little bit later on in the presentation. So I want to kind of talk a little bit about what is it in food and plants more broadly that really drives their therapeutic benefit and health impact. And taking a look at kind of the chemical composition of plants, we really have four major, broadly speaking, kinds of molecules found within plants. You have your macromolecules, which are your lipids, your carbohydrates, your proteins. And then you have your small molecules, which is really what I want to focus on today. When we think about the small molecules of edible and medicinal plants, there's a group of small molecules called phytonutrients, or also known as phytochemicals, that are secondary metabolites that have been known to have notable use cases in human health. For the plant itself, they've evolved over time to kind of serve as a defensive mechanism, often really providing the pigment and the protection and the flavor and the aroma of the plant itself. But when you sort of observe how it actually behaves in the human body, what we find is that these phytonutrients tend to have really a significant impact and potential when it comes to managing health and disease, both from a prevention and a treatment standpoint. And I wanted to share a few examples of these phytonutrients with you that you guys might be familiar with. So has anyone actually heard the legend that drinking wine is good for you? Well, without actually getting answers from the crowd, this is something that's actually based on grounded in some scientific evidence, which is really based on the fact that wine and grapes contain a powerful polyphenol called resveratrol, which is really sort of well established to have antioxidative properties in the body, as well as anti-carcinogenic and anti-tumor kind of properties. It's been shown to inhibit carcinogenesis at all stages, including initiation, promotion, and progression. And so there is actually some truth to this anecdote that wine and grapes are actually good for you. Similarly, has anyone heard the old wives' tale that actually carrots are supposed to be good for your eyes? Well, this is actually, again, grounded in some truth. When we look at sort of the chemical composition of carrots and we sort of take a look at one of the major compounds, major carotenoids, beta carotene, which is really responsible for giving the carrot its orange red kind of hue. This is a molecule that's been sort of observed and established to have really, really powerful effects. Notably, one of its major effects is that it's actually the precursor to vitamin A in your body. Vitamin A being retinol, which is a core component in driving eye health and vision, in addition to immune health and healthy skin. And so the old wives' tale that carrots are good for your eyes is actually grounded in truth. There is scientific evidence and basis for this. And the final example I want to give here is not necessarily a food example, but rather a medicinal plant example, where we look at aspirin, which is quite possibly the most commonly used drug in the world today. What's interesting about aspirin is that it was actually sort of derived from a compound called salicylic acid, which actually comes from willow tree bark. For more than 3,500 years, various communities, ancient indigenous communities had been using willow tree bark to actually as kind of a pain reliever and an anti-inflammatory. So if somebody got wounded or hurt, you would often find them, taking a piece of this bark and actually chewing on it in their mouths. And being inspired by this kind of ancient use, scientists actually took a look at the chemical composition of the willow tree bark and discovered what we now know today as aspirin. And these are just three of many kind of known phytochemicals that have very strong properties when it comes to bioactivity and human health. However, really despite this great promise, there's very little actually known about the chemical composition of food. In fact, most of our knowledge on the chemical composition of food really boils down to 150 macro and micronutrients, when in reality, there are hundreds of thousands, even millions of compounds found in food and plants more broadly that could have sort of healing and therapeutic properties within the body. And we know so little about this that the academic community commonly refers to this phenomenon as the dark matter of nutrition. In fact, I've seen in many papers scientists quoting the fact that we actually know more about the stars in the sky than we do about what's actually in our food. And so this is something that's really sort of got my gears turning and got me thinking. This sounds like there's 2 and 2 is not adding up here. It's not really making sense. And so when I dug into this problem a little bit further, I realized that this problem is not really only limited to edible plants, as I mentioned, but in fact, the entire plant kingdom. So the vast majority of small molecules within nature have been unexplored. Broadly speaking, there are 450,000 kind of known species of plants, with an estimate of less than 1% of those plants and small molecules out there having been explored, leaving us an estimate about 25 million unexplored metabolites out there that could have therapeutic value. And this is really sort of, what I feel is kind of becoming more and more well-established and regarded, and it's a central theme to my company, Terra Lumina, is that nature is one of the richest sort of untapped resources in terms of a chemical reservoir of possible therapeutic potential that we have only begun to scratch the surface of today. And so that's what's inspired us at Terra Lumina to really find ways to harness the power of data and AI to really empower a healthier humanity by unlocking the therapeutic potential of nature. And so in kind of thinking about how we want to do this and what we actually want to do and the problems that we want to solve to drive further exploration of these molecules, I wanted to kind of share a little bit of an analysis on what are the real problems in the discovery of natural compounds. I won't stay on this slide too long, but really, there are a number of limitations and challenging factors in the overall process. I want to highlight 3 of these. Which is, in the process of actually discovering a novel compound, bioactive compound from a plant. We really have multiple steps in the process that are conventionally rather challenging. In the initial instance, you've got to figure out what plant you're even testing for what indication or use case. And that hypothesis generation is rather challenging and requires a lot of kind of manual research and effort. You then have to actually identify a compound that has certain bioactive properties in the indication of interest. And so typically how this is done is a really rather kind of siloed, fragmented trial and error process. I've seen stats that say that it costs about $50,000 and takes 3 months to identify one bioactive compound within a possible sample or plant. And this is something that costs quite a bit of time and sort of effort and resources as well. So it's really not an efficient process. And quite frankly, it's not really done anymore for these reasons. Moreover, with these traditional methods, you're sort of limited to testing samples against targets one at a time. So, typically you're performing an extraction, you're identifying that compound and you're testing it against one possible use case, when in reality, every compound could have dozens of use cases associated with it that you're not able to actually access in this kind of traditional mechanism. And so what we are doing at Terra Lumina is taking a computational approach to this, where we are building an AI-powered, highly scalable natural product discovery platform that really has 3 main components. as I mentioned, our ancestors really collected a lot of really amazing knowledge. In fact, on the market today, 60% of the drugs that you'll find available on the market are actually inspired from nature. And then 77% of those drugs are actually inspired by their traditional or related to their traditional medicine use case. So our ancestors knew something. They collected all of this wisdom empirically over thousands of years, but we haven't yet found a way to go collect all of that knowledge in a scalably queryable manner. And so, part of what we're building at Terra Lumina is a knowledge graph where we're going out and collecting the world's ethnobotanical and traditional medicine knowledge into a highly scalable, queryable knowledge graph that can help us to generate and substantiate hypotheses on plants and their use cases based on thousands of years of historical data. The second element that's really essential to our platform is that we are going out and building the world's largest data set of natural compounds from plants and other kingdoms of life. Initially, as I mentioned, less than 1% have been documented. We're in the process now of pulling together the world's existing data on natural products. And then we want to go out and actually generate the 99% of data around the 99% of metabolites that have not yet been explored. And then the final element to our platform is really our advanced machine learning. We are building machine learning models that are specialized to operate within the world of natural products to really unlock the connection between natural compounds and their impact on the human body, so that we can ultimately accelerate the discovery of novel therapeutic compounds from plants that can then be used to really drive forward various dimensions of human health from both the prevention and the treatment standpoint. And ultimately, what this allows us to do is to partner with established players in the world of pharma, in the world of food, in the world of nutraceuticals to really accelerate the discovery of novel therapeutic small molecules from nature that can be commercialized as functional food ingredients, nutraceuticals and supplements, pharmaceuticals, cosmetics, and animal health products as well. And so this is, I know we're running close up to time here. This is the end of my presentation, but I would look forward to hearing your questions and thoughts on what we're doing here at Terra Lumina. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Sona, for your presentation and for this very different perspective. I would say we have many questions and it's already 10 past, so we have 5 minutes. If all speakers are available for another 5 minutes, would it be okay if we extend the Q&A by 5 minutes, or does anyone need to leave sharp 15 past?
I need to leave sharp because I have an appointment, but I can share my email or LinkedIn if there are any questions left. I will just write it in the chat. Okay, perfect. But maybe then we start with you. I think I just quickly looked through the questions and people are asking about Löwy and if it also looks at hormones or other. Yeah, so what our algorithms can do, is you can pretty much upload any kind of commonly used parameters. So we also can consider hormones. So in our home test kit, there are actually not hormones included. But for example, when we work with pregnant women, that's I think a good example. We get the data from the doctors, and that includes also hormone levels. So our algorithms can consider this. Yes, that's true. Okay, maybe a last question to you. So one person said a diversified diet should actually be enough for supplements. Yeah, that's basically the common saying, and that's the reason why we have a blood test. And the surprising thing is, no, it's just not the case. I mean, if you just look at some commonly supplement nutrients like vitamin D, if you're not constantly in the sun, for example, myself, I'm spending most of my time in front of the computer, unfortunately, then you just need vitamin D. If you don't like fish, then you need omega-3. Plus, then you have this very specific, personal instances of the metabolism, like with myself, where I need very high levels of iron to be in the optimum area, even though I eat meat and stuff like this. So I think that's really the beauty of the concept, because you don't need to believe something, but you actually see it in your results in our app. And the thing is, for example, if you have everything in the green area, then you also don't need to, then you're not forced to take the supplements. And that's pretty awesome if it's like this. But honestly speaking, that's not really happening very often. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. Then I'll maybe continue with a question to
yeah, I'm just going to share my contact data in the chat, and for everybody, feel free to reach out, send me an email, a LinkedIn. I'm super happy to answer your questions, maybe at a later point. So it was awesome. Have a great day.
Thank you, Philip.
Bye.
So a question to you, Olivier. So someone said, I know that there are a few examples of already personalized nutrition, and I might be good. So the question is, how do we combine the needs to address other individual needs with the complex supply chains in the food industry currently? And how can we, I think basically, how can we scale individualized solutions like the ones you presented?
Yeah, I think that's a key question, which is depends a lot of the level of personalization product you want to offer. But the offer is certainly in most cases a mix of solutions that you provide to the individuals. And as we say, food can supply already a big quantity of the needs, and therefore this can provide majority of it. And after the rest remaining of the nutrition can be provided by a couple of elements, which after that will depend on modern technology to mix them together. And I think the Lowy example is a good example on how they make it happening. They have different silos of pills, they provide that, and they get the mix and the match, and they can allow them to provide a personalized product at an affordable price. Therefore, but the majority of it will be provided by the food, by food recommendation, by meals plan, and on the top of that, you get, in certain cases, an extra supplement that will fit, and therefore the volume to be shipped and personalized need to be much lower than normal. That's one solution. And after, we can have intermediate steps, which can be clustering. Therefore, you have, yes, it can be personalized from a certain perspective, but in fact, this same product can fit 10% of Swiss population or 10% of the Chinese population. And as a consequence, you will design a product for 10% of the population, and the volume will be still big enough to be industrialized and scalable.
Thank you. Sona, you're nodding. Anything to add from your side?
No, I think that was a great sort of response, Olivier. I would agree with what was stated.
Okay, thank you. So there's also a question to you. So after AI and ML discovery phase of one rare phytonutrient that could cure cancer, for example, 0.1% in specific plants grown in tropical forest, how do you test it to prove health benefits? For example, pilot production is needed to be developed. And how do you produce it in a commercial scale? So that also links a bit to the question.
Sure. No, it's a really great question. I think it's a really important point that's being brought up, because I think that a lot of the reason why we sort of historically moved away from natural products as a main source of drug discovery and therapeutic compound discovery was this exact reason, which is that great, you might find something really therapeutic, but then it's found in some rare plant in the Amazon rainforest. How do you actually produce that at scale? And so I think this challenge was part of the reason why we moved away from this in the late 90s. And I think now natural products are experiencing a bit of a renaissance and renewed interest due to advancements in synthetic biology approaches, which allow us to basically synthesize these compounds using fermentation, et cetera, processes that sort of reopen the door to commercial scaling. And so I think one interesting point about what we're doing with our machine learning is that we are actually in the virtual screening process and kind of that pre-discovery or sort of study phase can give an indication about whether or not a compound is going to be commercially scalable or not via synthetic biology approaches, so that we don't waste time in the discovery process on compounds that we don't believe are going to have an efficient way of being scaled. And so that's one answer to this question. And then the second answer is, once we make a discovery and we actually sort of feel very confident this is going to be worth putting into clinical studies and we need to now scale this up, we partner with synthetic biology sort sort of companies who can then help us basically commercially scale up the production of our compounds, both for the clinical trial context as well as in the kind of market commercial scaling context as well.
Thank you very much. I think we could continue this conversation forever. We have so many more questions. That shows that there's a lot of interest in the field. But I think I would like to slowly finish, because we already going through are beyond the time that we planned for this session. And I would like to ask you if you have anything final to say. Maybe you can touch on one of the questions just in a summary answer. Many people manage the data security and that aspect around data, and how do you, if you do things personalized, it also means there's personal data involved. Do you have any insights or ideas around that topic? And is there anything else that you would like to add as a final sentence to this exciting roundtable that we're about to finish?
So you want to start, or?
Yes.
Sure, I can kick us off here. So, at this stage with Terra Lumina, we operate mainly with chemical structure data. So not necessarily personally identifiable information, although I have a lot of experience with that working with my previous company, Oshi Health, where we were directly impacting patient care. I think that sensitivity and privacy on patient health data is extremely important, and finding innovative approaches from a technology standpoint to make sure that this data is not identifiable to an individual person is extremely crucial. That being said, I think that we should really find ways to make use of this data in as many ways as we can, because as folks like Olivier and Philip had mentioned in the conversation earlier, there's so much rich information in this data that we can use to actually improve the quality of life and healthcare of our patients. We just need to do this in a way that doesn't compromise their safety and security. And I think that there's a lot of people working day in and day out to figure this out and create ways and mechanisms for us to actually obtain this data, maybe in an aggregate kind of format, to basically enable us to use it in a way that makes sense. There's other concepts like federated learning and machine learning and other sort of technology approaches that can help us do this. And so I think that there's a bright future ahead for us to maintain both.
Thank you. Olivier?
Yeah, therefore, I think from a data perspective, I fully agree with Sona. We have technology existing and emerging which will ensure the guarantee, the security and protection of the data, to make sure that also it's fully compliant with the local legislations. And I think we are quite lucky in Europe to have one of the most advanced and protected technology available. But let's not just stop at this level. There is much more that we need to really protect the health and the nominative data of this. After, from interpretation perspective, recommendation perspective, yes, there is means to integrate in a totally anonymized aspects. We can allow to get the best of this data without compromising any privacy aspects. And yes, there is a lot of opportunity on personalized nutrition in many different aspects of the value chain. There is also many challenges that are which already exist but may appear in the future. However, I think it's clearly the future from one way or the others, because this will bring at scale some health benefit at the individuals. We have been proven in the past years that often if we apply common recommendation to a population, we don't solve the problem, because in fact we have to address as a personalized perspective. Changing behavior of people is not obvious, and it requires really a personal approach. That has been done at a small scale by dietitians and different approaches which are working quite well. But if we want to make it at scale and successful for the health of the people, that requires some solutions from all over perspective and all over businesses.
Thank you. Very nice ending words, actually. Thank you, Sona, Olivier, and Philip, who had to leave, for your insights. Thank you for everyone who stayed with us. Most of you actually stayed, and that shows that this topic is very important and relevant to many of us. And I would like to finish the session with something our managing director said last week. She said, precision nutrition really has the potential to create a world where being ill is a matter of choice and it's not just bad luck. And I find that this is something very exciting, something very promising, and something that can really create a healthier world for all of us. So I wish you a very good evening and a healthy dinner and hope to see you another time in another session. Thank you and goodbye.